My name is Anna, and I've always prided myself on being a hard worker. My job as an accountant at a large firm demands a lot of my time and energy. Every morning, I wake up early, prepare breakfast, and head to the office. My husband Oleg, on the other hand, has turned into a complete deadbeat. Despite his claims of looking for the right job, days, weeks, and months passed without any change. He preferred to stay at home, indulging in his trivial hobbies like stamp collecting and watching old movies. Each day, as I left for work, I hoped that Oleg would find something productive to do. But every evening when I returned, he was in the same position on the couch, remote in hand or surrounded by his stamp collection. This deadbeat didn't lift a finger to contribute. As months went by, I noticed that our joint bank account was depleting rapidly. I tried to understand where the money was going, since my salary was stable and our expenses hadn't increased. This deadbeat assured me he wasn't wasting money and blamed it on trivial expenses like food and gas. One day I came home earlier than usual and caught Oleg quickly closing his laptop when I walked in. My suspicion grew, and I decided to check what he was hiding. I asked to use his laptop under the pretext of needing to check my email. At first he hesitated, but eventually handed it over under my intense gaze. I started scrutinizing our joint account statements and discovered significant sums being transferred to an unknown account regularly. Alarm bells rang in my head, and I decided to investigate further. I meticulously reviewed every transaction and found that substantial amounts were being transferred almost monthly to the same account. My intuition told me something was terribly wrong. That night, when this deadbeat was asleep, I quietly took his phone and began searching through his messages. What I found confirmed my worst fears. In his messages with his parents, it was clear that Oleg was sending them money every month. I couldn't stay silent any longer. When Oleg came home that evening, I confronted him immediately. Oleg, I checked our account statements and your messages with your parents. You've been stealing money from me and sending it to them. Why? I demanded, trying to keep my composure. This deadbeat first tried to deny it, but then admitted that his parents were in financial trouble, and he didn't know how else to help them. I couldn't believe my ears. Instead of finding a job to support both of us, he was stealing my hard-earned money and giving it away. I was heartbroken and furious. I couldn't forgive this deadbeat for his betrayal and lies. After much contemplation, I decided to take a drastic step that would change our lives forever. I resolved to close our joint bank account and open a personal one, ensuring that this deadbeat could no longer steal my money. I knew this would lead to even more conflicts, but I saw no other choice. Deep down, I hoped this would shake him up and make him realize he needed to change. The next day, I went to the bank and secretly opened a new account. I transferred all my savings and my salary to this new account to ensure this deadbeat could no longer access my money. I also got a new card that only I could use. When I got home, Oleg was on the couch watching TV as usual. I didn't say a word about what I had done. Let him figure it out himself. Deep down, I hoped this would serve as a wake-up call. This deadbeat soon noticed that our joint account was empty and demanded an explanation. I can't trust you anymore, Oleg. You've been stealing money and lying to me. From now on, we will have separate finances so I can control my money, I told him, looking him straight in the eye. This deadbeat was shocked. He didn't expect me to take such measures. Our conversation quickly turned into a heated argument, where I unleashed all my pent-up anger and disappointment. A serious conflict erupted between me and this deadbeat. Oleg couldn't believe I had taken such drastic measures, while I felt betrayed and disillusioned. Our relationship suffered immensely, and we started living like roommates rather than spouses. Oleg tried to persuade me to return to the way things were, but I remained firm. I couldn't trust this deadbeat anymore. Every time he brought up the joint finances, I reminded him of his betrayal. The strain on our relationship took a toll on me. I worked long hours to ensure we had enough money for bills and other necessities. My job was demanding, and balancing that with the emotional stress at home was exhausting. I often felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. This deadbeat's lack of contribution only made things worse. I found myself waking up earlier and staying up later just to keep everything afloat. My energy was drained, and I often felt like I was on the brink of collapse. I couldn't afford to let my guard down, not even for a moment. Oleg's attempts to mend things seemed half-hearted at best. He started doing small chores around the house, like taking out the trash or occasionally cooking dinner, But it wasn't enough. I was still the one bearing the brunt of the financial burden. My days were a blur of numbers and reports, meetings and deadlines. Every evening, I dragged myself home, only to find this deadbeat lounging around. His occasional efforts felt like mere drops in the ocean of responsibilities I was drowning in. One particularly grueling day at work, as I sifted through endless spreadsheets and reconciled accounts, it hit me just how unfair this situation was. I was working myself to the bone while this deadbeat barely lifted a finger. My resentment grew with every passing day. I started questioning why I was putting up with this. Why was I the only one making sacrifices? This deadbeat had taken advantage of my hard work and trust, and now he was doing the bare minimum to rectify the situation. That night, after another exhausting day, I made a decision. I sat down with Oleg and laid it all out. VDJ and Oleg, this can't go on. I'm exhausted. I'm the only one working hard, and you're doing next to nothing. Either you step up and find a real job or this is over, VDJ, I said, my voice firm and unwavering. This deadbeat looked at me, surprised by my resolve. He tried to argue, but I stood my ground. I was done being the only one fighting for our future. Over the next few days, I watched Oleg closely. This deadbeat knew I was serious, and he started making more of an effort. He went to job interviews and even picked up some freelance work, but I remained skeptical. Was this just another one of his temporary efforts, or was he truly ready to change? I continued to work hard, knowing that I couldn't let my guard down. My job was demanding, and every day brought new challenges. I had to be on top of everything, and the last thing I needed was more stress from this deadbeat. Slowly, I began to see some progress. Oleg managed to land a part-time job, and he started bringing in some income. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I remained cautious, not wanting to get my hopes up too soon. My workload didn't lighten, but I felt a small sense of relief knowing that this deadbeat was finally contributing. I still had to work long hours, but at least I wasn't completely alone in supporting us. We settled into a new routine. I continued my demanding job, and Oleg worked part-time while picking up freelance projects. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than before. We still kept our finances separate, and I kept a close eye on my account to ensure this deadbeat couldn't touch my money. My days were still long and tiring, but I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things could get better. But I knew I had to stay vigilant. This deadbeat had let me down before, and I couldn't afford to be naive. Months passed, and I began to see more consistent effort from Oleg. He took on more responsibilities at home, and his part-time job became more stable. He even started contributing to our savings, which was a significant step forward. I continued to work hard, knowing that my job was crucial to our financial stability. My dedication paid off, and I received a promotion at work. The increased salary helped ease some of the financial pressure, but my workload grew even heavier. At work, my efforts didn't go unnoticed. My colleagues and supervisors recognized my hard work and dedication. I received praise for my accuracy and efficiency, and my promotion came with additional responsibilities. Despite the long hours and constant stress, I felt a sense of accomplishment. I was proud of what I had achieved, and it motivated me to keep pushing forward. This deadbeat's betrayal had been a heavy burden, but it also fueled my determination to succeed. However, the strain of balancing work and my relationship with Oleg took its toll. Despite his progress, the memories of his betrayal lingered. I couldn't forget how this deadbeat had stolen from me and lied. It was a constant battle to trust him again fully. I often found myself working late into the night, trying to stay on top of my responsibilities. My body ached from the long hours, and my mind was constantly racing. I couldn't afford to make mistakes, not with so much at stake. Realizing that we needed help to rebuild our relationship, I suggested we see a therapist. Oleg agreed, knowing that he had a lot to make up for. We began attending sessions where we worked through our issues and learned how to communicate better. Therapy was tough. It forced us to confront our problems head-on and address the pain and resentment that had built up over time. But it was also a step towards healing. Slowly, we started to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. As we continued therapy, I began to see changes in Oleg. This deadbeat was genuinely trying to make amends. He listened more, took responsibility for his actions, and made an effort to be a better partner. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. My workload remained heavy, but I found some comfort in knowing that we were working towards a better future together. I still had to be cautious, but I allowed myself to hope that things could improve. We started working as a team. Oleg took on more household responsibilities, which gave me some much-needed relief. He handled grocery shopping, cooking, and other chores, allowing me to focus on my demanding job. Our evenings became a time to reconnect. We talked about our days, our goals, and our plans for the future. This deadbeat was slowly becoming a partner I could rely on, and it made a world of difference. Despite the progress, there were setbacks. Old habits die hard, and there were times when Oleg would fall back into his old ways. He would skip chores or slack off at work, and it would ignite my anger and frustration all over again. But we kept going to therapy, and we kept communicating. I reminded myself that change takes time, and I had to be patient. This deadbeat had caused a lot of pain, but he was trying to make things right. We celebrated small milestones along the way. Oleg's part-time job became full-time, and he received a raise. I continued to excel at work, and my promotion brought new opportunities and challenges. We started saving for a vacation, something we had always talked about but never managed to do. It felt like a tangible goal, a reward for all the hard work and struggles we had endured. After months of saving and planning, we finally took our vacation. It was a much-needed break from the daily grind. We traveled to a beautiful beach destination where we could relax and reconnect. The vacation was a turning point. Away from the stresses of work and daily life, we were able to enjoy each other's company and remember why we fell in love in the first place. This deadbeat was showing me a different side, one that was caring and attentive. Returning from vacation, we felt rejuvenated. The time away had given us a fresh perspective, and we were ready to face our challenges with renewed energy. We continued therapy, and our communication improved. Oleg became more involved in our finances, and we started planning our budget together. This deadbeat was finally stepping up, and it made a significant difference in our relationship. Building trust wasn't easy, but it was happening. Oleg's consistent efforts showed me that he was committed to making things right. We still had our separate accounts, but we were more transparent with each other about our expenses and savings. My job remained demanding, but I felt more supported. Oleg's contributions at home and his steady income took some of the pressure off me. I could focus on my career without constantly worrying about our finances. We began talking about our future again. Dreams that had seemed impossible started to feel within reach. We discussed buying a house, starting a family, and continuing to build our savings. This deadbeat had come a long way, and so had I. We had both worked hard to rebuild our relationship and create a stable foundation for our future. There were still challenges ahead, but we faced them together. I realized how strong I had become through all of this. My job had always been demanding, but the personal struggles had made me even more resilient. I was proud of the woman I had become, someone who could handle whatever life threw at her. Oleg had changed too. This deadbeat had turned into a partner who was willing to work hard and support me. We had both grown, and our relationship was stronger for it. We made a commitment to each other to keep working on our relationship. We promised to be honest, supportive, and to always communicate. We knew that there would be tough times, but we were ready to face them together. My job continued to challenge me, but I embraced it. I had proven to myself that I could handle anything, and I was determined to keep succeeding. This deadbeat's betrayal had hurt me deeply, but it had also made me stronger. As we moved forward, I felt a sense of peace. We had been through so much, but we had come out stronger on the other side. This deadbeat was now a reliable partner, and our relationship was filled with trust and understanding. We continued to work hard, both at our jobs and at our relationship. The road ahead wasn't always smooth, but we faced it together. And in the end, that's what mattered most. We had found our way back to each other, and we were ready to build a future filled with love, trust, and happiness.